Former Liberal Justice Minister and human rights advocate Irwin Cotler says he was targeted by Iran, but the plot to assassinate him appears to have been foiled by law enforcement. The Globe and Mail first reported that the RCMP told Cotler last month of an Iranian plot to kill him within 48 hours. Today, Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc said he would not comment when he was asked if suspects had been arrested or fled Canada. Instead, he said this.
I understand it's not a Netflix series where we sort of tell people about some person that arrived at an airport on this date and he's staying at this hotel. That's not normally how these things work. I have a lot of confidence that the RCMP, with partners like CSIS, have all of the information necessary to protect Canadians who may be subject to specific threats.
To talk about what he experienced, I'm joined now by former Justice Minister and human rights advocate Irwin Cotler. So, Mr. Cotler, I appreciate that there are limits to what you can share, but what can you tell us about how you learned that there was an imminent threat to your life?
Well, I was planning to go attend the 60th anniversary of my middle law school class a little over 3 weeks ago, and I've had excellent security protection over the last year when I was first informed about the fact that there was and to use the words of Canadian law enforcement authorities, an imminent and lethal threat. Since then, I've had the benefit of a 24/7 protection, and it's been exemplary protection. I want to commend the law enforcement authorities. But a little over 3 weeks ago, as I said, when I was about to attend it, I was advised that, in fact, they had evidence of an imminent threat within the next 48 hours, and therefore I did not attend the law school reunion. I then heard about that there were two suspects. I've since read, as you have in the very excellent source Globe and Mail report by Bob Fife, that apparently the two suspects may have been themselves apprehended. I don't know. But I have to say that report in the Globe and Mail was very well sourced, and it revealed, among other things, the fact that I had had that imminent threat a little over 3 weeks ago.
The idea that it was Iranian agents that were behind this threat, what do you know about that?
Well, when I was first subjected to the 24/7 protection as a result of what was described as an imminent lethal threat, I was not told the source of that threat. That was just a little over a year ago. During the course of my protection, I learned that it was Iran, and I wasn't surprised because Iran has become really a case study of what today is the phenomenon not only of transnational repression, but transnational assassination. And they have become a leading state actor in that particular assault on our national security and sovereignty and on our human security. And so now that we know that it is Iran, I think there's a responsibility on the community of democracies to combat its ongoing culture of impunity, because Iran has not been targeting me. It has been targeting dissidents like Masih Alinejad. It has been targeting journalists. It has been targeting other political leaders. And so the time at this point is to combat this ongoing, culture of impunity as well as transnational assassination, and begin to hold them accountable, because what's at stake here is really our collective human security.
Do you see an escalation, Mr. Cotler? Because you point to other activists, and I in no way want to diminish those very alarming cases, but we often hear about, Iranian Canadians, Iranian Americans that are being targeted by the regime. There are the allegations that Donald Trump was targeted, members of his administration. Yourself, you've been speaking out against Iran for well over a decade. Do you see an escalation here?
Yes, I've noticed an escalation. An escalation usually comes when what has already happened is greeted with impunity. And when there's no accountability, it incentivizes the ongoing transnational repression and assassination. It's the same with regard to Russia. When Putin saw that he went into Chechnya and he went into Georgia and then he seized Crimea and that this could be conducted with impunity, then he said, well, why not go into the Ukraine? And thought that Ukraine was really part of Russia in any case. Well, at that point, that served as a wake-up call for the international community to begin to hold Russia accountable. I think we need this wake-up call now with regard to Iran and its transnational, not only repression, but assassination, and combat the impunity and begin to work collectively to hold Iran accountable.
When it comes to the situation in Canada, Conservative MP Melissa Lantsman says that the government bears responsibility for what happened to you, saying that Justin Trudeau allowed Iran's IRGC to operate, in her mind, freely within Canada for years, took too long to label them a terrorist entity. What do you make of that assessment?
Well, I first proposed that the IRGC be put on the terrorist list. Goes back 15 years. At that time, it was actually a Conservative government. So I think that both governments, Conservative and Liberal, did not move quickly enough to put the IRGC on the terrorist list. I'm glad that that has now been done. Canada's going to be hosting at the G7. We have to get other countries in the G7 because it's not just the US and Canada to collectively hold put the IRGC on the terrorist list and hold Iran accountable, and begin to adopt a concerted strategy by the community of democracies to combat, as I said, the culture of impunity, to hold Iran accountable, and to also begin to show solidarity with the Iranian people, who are the ongoing targets of the Iranian regime's massive domestic repression. So we have a confluence of this Iranian regime, of its massive domestic repression, its transnational repression and assassination, and it's time to hold them accountable for both and show solidarity with the Iranian people.
In your case, the specific imminent threat against you, that has now been diminished, is that right? What is your understanding about your own security situation right now?
Well, I've been advised that it has been somewhat diminished. I'm still receiving the same exemplary 24/7 protection, but instead of, let's say, 5 armored cars, I may have 3 armored cars. Instead of 10 security guards protecting me, I'll have less. So the protection is still there. I believe that the threat level may have diminished somewhat, but again, I go back to the importance of us seeing that the issues here are larger than myself. I'm a looking glass into the larger phenomenon which mandates us to hold the Iranian regime accountable and to show solidarity with the Iranian people.
Irwin Cotler, always grateful for your time. Thank you for speaking about this, and be well.
Thank you, and good speaking with you.